What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a very exciting video. Next to me, I have a 2023 Volkswagen ID.4 Pro S all-wheel drive. This thing is fully spec'd out, $57,000, but it's missing one big thing, and I think Volkswagen messed up. I headed over to the Volkswagen lot and said, I'm gonna pick the most expensive ID.4 we have. This one, MSRP, $57,000. This is basically completely spec'd out except for one thing, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But we'll just go ahead and work our way through this entire vehicle. I'm super stoked. I'm a big fan of the ID.4, so let's get started. Like I said, this is the Pro S, so you have the dual motors here, and it has all-wheel drive. You have an 82 kilowatt hour battery pack, so full charge, around 255 miles of range. Up front, you have an extensive LED lighting system up here, so you have LED daytime running lights, LED high beams, LED main beams. You have an LED light bar that runs across the front here. The Volkswagen badge is illuminated, and this is a full adaptive front lighting system with dynamic cornering lights, and you've got poor weather lighting here on the sides as well. No fog lights that you can see here, but you do have parking sensors down there and a really cool front grille. It's pretty simple, but I think it's pretty modern looking, especially having this nice light bar and a nice illuminated Volkswagen badge right here. A little bit of a diamond design down here, but not a whole lot going on. It's pretty basic in the front, but really, I don't mind that at all. You don't have any kind of weird, faux grille thing like Chevy has in the front that's just a piece of textured plastic. You do have some active ventilation down here, which is always nice to have, just helps cool the motors off if need be. But the whole thing sits on these 20-inch wheels, really kind of a space-agey looking simple rim design, but I'm a big fan of it. You got a little bit of cladding here, a little bit of a parking sensor there. Your all-wheel drive Pro S badging right here. The one main thing it's missing, and this is what I talked about at the beginning as the big omission, this is a fully spec'd out ID.4 except for the overhead view camera system. So if we move on back to the side mirrors here, we actually have a lot to talk about back here. So these mirrors are just manual folding mirrors. They do have integrated turn signals, blind spot monitoring. They are heated still. Typically speaking, these will be fully spec'd out here on the top of the line ID.4 Pro S at $57,000. You'd have accent lighting, you'd have a camera up under here, they'd be power folding, they'd have position memory, all that kind of stuff. These ones don't. And if we actually walk over to the window sticker here, you can actually see under the packages option on the window sticker here that you have these different charges for additions, but then right here you actually have a credit issued. You have negative $300 right here because you don't have your area view or your overhead view camera. And you may have noticed when we were up front that you actually don't have your front facing camera either because you don't have the overhead view cam system on this model. Weird, I don't know why. This one doesn't, and we got a credit issued for it. Seems like they made a mistake. But if we move on back to the door handles, you do have accent lighting on the door handles, so it's kind of hard to see in the daytime. I'll show you a clip at night. But they are, flush door handles, so they don't extend at all. You just put your hand under, there's a button, and then you can put your hand here to lock it up. No real extreme body lines or anything crazy on the side of the vehicle. You have a little bit of black cladding down at the bottom, but it's a pretty simplified side angle here. You do have a little bit of this kind of sparkly silver, just a little accent, I guess. It just kind of breaks up the body. And then you do have a black roof with silver roof rails and a full panoramic sunroof. Now that is what I'm talking about. When someone says a panoramic roof, that is what I want, full glass roof. And of course your charging port is back here. Vehicle has to be unlocked, but you just push and open up. You've got a little LED light in there. You've got your DC fast charging if you take this little piece out. And yeah, I'll have all your charging specs on screen, but it's, decent charging speeds, definitely competitive. You also have a heated windshield up here with rain sensing windshield wipers with heated wiper nozzles. So coming to the back of the ID.4 here, your LED lighting kit continues back here. You've got these LED taillights that wrap all the way around. You have a light bar that runs across the back, another illuminated Volkswagen badge right here. And you would think that this ID.4 word mark here is illuminated because it is so freaking bright, but it's not, it's just white. It looks nice though. You have a sloped back windshield, tinted glass, rear wiper, a little bit of a lip here, spoiler. It does kind of continue that roof accent. And then again, you have that silver accent on the C-pillars here, but you have a pretty simplified back end here. It kind of follows up, what you've got in the front. You've just got some reflectors, a couple parking sensors dotted around. Weirdly, you have this giant black plastic cladding right here. I think it looks kind of funny. It doesn't really match. You'd think there would just be another body colored piece here. I guess it's because you have 2,700 pounds of towing capacity. So if you hook something up here, you maybe want something a little more rugged here in case anything kind of bumps in any way. I'm not sure that's exactly the reason, but it is kind of odd looking. It doesn't really match anything else on the vehicle, but you have it nonetheless. You have a button here to open the tailgate. It's a power lift gate. Rear vision camera right there with a little sprayer. Inside, you've got Volkswagen's cargo protection system, so you've got organizers there and whatnot. In this pouch, you have your 2-in-1 EV charging cable, so this lets you use a 240 volt outlet or 120 volts, depending on if you want to wait until you're 84 years old for it to finish charging on that 120 volt. Up under your 2 levels of underfloor storage, you've got a little tire inflation kit right here, but you do not have a spare tire. You've got room for a cargo net. You do have a cargo shade right here, which you can remove just by taking these loops off and popping it off the edge. And you've got some LED lights back here. You also have a pass through there in the center of your back seats. So if you need to carry some 2x4s or a rug or something like that, easy pass through right there. Again, I'll have all dimensions on screen, but you got a pretty decent sized trunk back here. I would definitely like to have this much cargo capacity in my Bolt because I carry a lot of camera gear around, but unfortunately it's a little bit smaller. But a button right there to close the tailgate, and we can hop inside. So what you'll notice when you hop inside the cabin of the ID.4 is that as soon as you sit your butt down in the seats, it turns on. And if I had my seats set to whatever I wanted to, position memory-wise, it would go ahead and scoop my seat forward and do all of it. But I think it's being a little weird since that door is open and I'm shooting in, so it didn't go ahead and move me forward. But that's one of the weird things that's a little bit hard to get used to when you're operating one of these vehicles is you just sit down and it's on. You don't get in and push a push to start button. Now there is a push to start button right here, and you can actually push that to turn the vehicle on or push it again to turn the vehicle off. So that exists still. It's in a place that's the worst I've ever seen. Y'all know if you follow this channel, I don't like when they're behind the steering wheel. This one's quite literally on the steering wheel, so you can't see it, you just have to feel for it, but it's not necessary because the vehicle's just gonna turn on when you sit down anyway. But let's go ahead and work our way across the cabin and talk about everything. So starting over here on the door panels, you have a soft touch black rubber material up top. Then you have some gray leather material with accent stitching. I mean, there's so much piano black plastic in this car. Don't even get me started. But you have it here on the most contacted area of the door here, which is where you put your hand to open the windows, to adjust your mirror settings, to lock and unlock the car. It's just right, it's just the weirdest. Why would you put it there? I cannot, my mind cannot comprehend it. Now, some of the controls on the ID.4 are interesting. Like for the windows here, you only have 2 buttons for your windows. And it's like, well, I have got rear windows too. Like, how do I open those? You see the word rear right here. You just tap that, a little finicky, you kind of long press it a little bit, and now you can open those back windows. So some of that stuff is kind of weird, takes a minute to get used to, but it does clean up the armrest area. You know, you don't have so many window controls. I kind of like it, but I know some people don't like it because it takes a little bit of getting used to. It's not as much muscle memory there. Past that, you do have your lighting controls here. These are touch capacitive as well as most of the stuff in this vehicle is. So you've got your poor weather lights, you've got automatic lights, you've got your window defoggers here for front and rear. You've got your light controls on the side here as well, which is for your brights and your turn signals. There's a stalk on the other side for your windshield wipers as well. But again, there's so much automatic stuff in this vehicle. You don't really need to use any of this stuff. Just turn on all your automatic stuff and it works 90% of the time. So you've got a leather wrapped heated steering wheel here. Now there's no button on the steering wheel to actually turn the heated option on. You got to go into the display, into the climate control, and then turn it on. So it's a little bit, you know, annoying, but it is what it is. You also have your travel assist options over here, and then you have all of your, I say all of kind of sarcastically, all of your controls for your little 5.3-inch Volkswagen ID cockpit is what they call it, right past the steering wheel here. This is one of my least favorite parts about the ID.4. I've complained about it in the past. I made an entire video on things that I don't like about the ID.4 when it first came out, and this was one of them. Just by modern standards, having a 5.3-inch cluster right there to be your entire driver information cluster is ridiculous. Unless you want to go the Tesla route and just not have anything at all and have everything over here, or go the opposite route and have gigantic like 15-inch screens all across the thing like Hyundai does. You got to make up your mind. This is the worst of all of those options, and I don't know why they did it. You have so little information that you can actually see on here. You can see your driver assistance features. You can see if you're buckled in or not. You can see what gear you're in. You can see what your speed is, how much range you have left. Stuff you'd want to see, but it just seems like they just kind of threw it on there, and I'm just not the biggest fan of it. It is what it is, but you've got regular mode, obviously park, neutral, reverse, drive, and then you have brake mode, which is your regen braking, one pedal driving mode like Chevy has. But let me just say, it's nowhere near what Chevy has. I've actually talked about this in a different video. I did a very non-scientific test of the regen braking speeds between Chevy and Volkswagen. I'll put a little clip on screen here so you can see it. But yeah, Chevy wins, and it's not even close. Volkswagen's region braking just, it's nice to have, but it's not really that great right now. But if we move on over here to the 12-inch infotainment system, this is Volkswagen's newest infotainment system. Overall, I'm a big fan of it. I think it has a lot of nice features and I think it looks really good. But for whatever reason, on the ID.4 specifically, it's really bad. And I don't know why. I've used it on the Atlas most recently, and it was great. It functioned great, no issues whatsoever, but for whatever reason, here on the ID.4, it's just clunky and slow, and I don't understand why. I wish I could explain it to you guys in a more technical way. Fluidity's not there, responsiveness isn't there, the refresh rate seems to stagger a lot. It's got all kinds of issues, and I'm not sure why. They just haven't fixed it yet. Hopefully next year, they'll get things ironed out, add more processing power, change the screen. Maybe it's a laggy input, the coating they use over it to make it touch capacitive. There could be a million things, I don't know. But it just doesn't work as well as some other vehicles that Volkswagen's put it on. But nonetheless, it's feature rich. You've got phone, Bluetooth, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, you know, navigation, climate control, vehicle settings, all your charging information. You can find that all on the screen. You can see your rear view camera. If you had overhead view cam, you could see all your 360-degree systems. All that kind of good stuff is there. And of course, you can use your heated seats. You can adjust your ambient lighting. And there's tons of awesome customization inside of this menu. And I'm gonna be talking about all that in my secret features video. So definitely hit subscribe so you don't miss that. But there's not a whole lot to say on this infotainment system. They are introducing in 2024 when they do a refresh of the ID.4, or I guess a couple of small updates. One of the things they are doing is they're adding a new 12.9-inch infotainment system, and hopefully they'll change a lot of the kind of quirks and bugs that this one currently has. It does have a lot of touch capacitive buttons, so it has touch capacitive power button, touch capacitive, you know, menu navigation buttons, sliders for your volume, sliders for changing your radio station, sliders for your climate control temperature. It works fine. It's not a problem, and I'm perfectly used to using it, and I don't even drive these things daily, so it doesn't take that long to get used to. Don't freak out that you don't have buttons to push. It's all there, all the functions there. You just, sometimes it takes a couple extra clicks. Even up top with your sunroof, you can just slide this back and the shade will open up. You can tap these dome lights and they'll turn on and off. So all kinds of cool stuff in here. You've got some front vents here, and this is a 3-zone climate control system. So individually adjustable driver, passenger, and rear seat passenger options, which is nice to have. Also having rear vents in an electric SUV is nice. Chevy, please take notes. You've got an auto dimming rear view mirror up here, but it's, you know, pretty minimal in its design. And then you've got some mirrors here with little LED lights on them as well. I don't know what the reason is, but you used to be able to remove the cup holders and move them around and customize them. You cannot do that here. These are definitely fixed in place cup holders. I just looked it up. The center console area got redesigned here in 2023, which to me means it got worse because you can't really customize it at all. But maybe there was a reason. Maybe it broke more easily. I don't know what the reasoning is, but 2 cup holders, wireless charging pad, 2 USB-C ports. Under the center console here, no more charging ports. I think there is a little light in there, and then, you know, a relatively deep pocket. Nothing crazy though. Normal size glove box right here. Now, as far as the seating surfaces go, this is another thing that's one of my least favorite things about the ID.4. It's not that they're uncomfortable seats by any means. Trust me, I have a Chevy Bolt. But these are just not the most comfortable seats for $57,000. And they call them like Galaxy interior or whatever, and they're just plain like gray black seats. Like, they're nothing special. They don't have any contrast to them really. They have a little bit of accent stitching, but nothing wild at all. They do have perforations in them for your heated option, no ventilated option on this one. You do have ID badging right here in little dots as well. You can adjust the headrest and, you know, do kinds of stuff like that. The driver's seat is a 12-way power adjustable seat with 4-way lumbar support, position memory, and lumbar massaging. That's pretty nice. I should have had that on this entire time. The passenger seat is a power adjustable seat as well, and it does have massaging also. You also have interior ambient lighting that runs around certain little elements of the center console here and on the door panels as well, and you can customize that completely. But the center console being redesigned is new for 2023. Having the larger infotainment display standard is new for 2023. Some of the additional options here on this brand new trim for 2023 being the Pro S, having the heated rear seats, having the 3-way climate control system, having the unique 20-inch wheels on this model, and then also having a premium stereo system. All of that has been added here on this new trim for 2023. All right, so hopping into the back seats of the ID.4 here. Again, these seats are not the most premium seats that you're ever gonna get for $57,000, but they are comfortable. I don't want that to be misunderstood. They are super comfortable seats. So you've got plenty of space back here, nice comfortable area. Got your little LED dome lights that are blinding me right now. You have this huge panoramic glass roof here. I've got it covered up because it's too bright, but it does give you, you know, this nice, big, bright, airy feel when you're back here in the back seats. I talked about these map pockets in my hidden features video, and you have one more little pocket. You got to go watch that video to find out. So you've got a very similar looking door back here, similar plastic material, but this is not soft touch. This is just a hard plastic, but you have that same kind of gray leather accent, same kind of piano black accent, just fingerprint magnet back here. And you've got it around the vents. Like a lot of the contact points, they put gloss black plastic. I cannot understand that, but they did it. You've got heated seat options back here, which is nice for your outboard seats. 2 USB-C charging ports, the map pockets like I mentioned. You can pull the center console down and you get 2 additional cup holders and a nice armrest for, you know, 2 adults back here, 3 kids, no problem. You don't have a transmission hump running through, so you have a completely flat floor back here, so it's great for 3 children to sit back here. You also have this little handle here. You can pull that, and then this entire centerpiece drops. Then you can fit things through like a rug, 2x4s, like I mentioned outside. And then, like I said, you do have these dome lights here that you can tap, they turn on, tap again, they turn off. Super nice. All right, let's take the ID.4 for a little test drive. You guys may or may not know, if you followed the channel for a while, that I am a huge electric car nerd. I love them. So the ID.4 is right up my alley. I'm a big fan anytime I get to make a video on this car. I love it. It's really different than driving my Bolt. I'm very used to that driving experience, and the ID.4 is a lot different. The ID.4 is more like driving a larger SUV. The Bolt handles a little bit more nimbly. It's smaller, it's lighter, it's quicker. The ID.4 is kind of more of a luxurious ride. It's big. I mean, it's not a massive vehicle overall, but it feels big. It feels like you're driving like a very sturdy vehicle. I've made that comment in the past. Like the doors are heavy, the vehicle feels heavy, it feels weighty, and there's nothing wrong with that. You know, there's a lot of pros to that, but there's some cons too. Like in the past, it's felt slow to me and not as quick and responsive as something like the Bolt. With this all-wheel drive version, the Pro S with the dual motors, you have higher horsepower and you can kind of give it a little bit of juice. So if I go ahead and floor it, I mean, you get that instant torque and it pins you back. Not like a Tesla necessarily, but it's got some absolute go, especially on this dual motor version. And that is in the sport driving mode. So if we switch it back to comfort, which is just like your normal mode, then you can still get some of that instant torque. Instant torque is inherent with electric vehicles, but you're not gonna get like as much punch as you would in sport mode. So it's just different driving experience. If we go ahead and switch it to brake mode, it's going ahead and slowing right down because I did not apply any acceleration on that pedal there. And this is the mode that I prefer to drive in. This is what I drive in on my Bolt, is 1-pedal mode. So I'm really accustomed to brake mode. I like it. I've gotten so accustomed to it, I don't even use my brake pedal anymore for the most part. It's just my preferred way to drive. But let's go ahead and turn on travel assist, because that is, again, my other preferred way to drive on Volkswagen models. Let's go ahead and set it. Turn it on, set, and there we go. So travel assist is active. And once we get up here, we can see how it holds us in the lines. Not take us entirely around the turn, but help us a little bit. But you can see it shows us our lines there. And let's see how well it does of keeping us in the lines here. Travel assist is on. So you can see how it kind of adjusts the wheel slightly to keep us in the center of the lane. It'll keep us whatever distance we set away from the vehicle in front of us, maintain our current speed, bring us to a complete stop, speed us back up. It is awesome. It is my favorite semi-autonomous driving system that I've used. Let's see how well it does around this curve here. Again, I'm not applying any steering pressure. Wow. That was awesome. It did really well on that. I'm always impressed when I use this. I'm like a kid on Christmas whenever I have to use this system. I absolutely love it. Definitely check it out. Now, the infotainment system, let's talk about this. A couple things stand out to me. One, it's not as bad as people make it out to be. It's gotten better, but it could be really good. If they update this system to be the newer version of it that's a lot more reliable, I think it's a great system. No doubt about that in my mind. I'm a big fan of it in that regard. I like the look of it a lot, and if they change a couple things about it, make it a little bit more responsive, a little bit more, user-friendly, it's the best infotainment system that's non-Tesla, non-Rivian. Other things about this cabin, when you get right in and you sit down and the vehicle just starts, it's hard to get used to, but if this was my daily driver, I think I would get really used to that system. And I wish that this was kind of the standard, because I think once that muscle memory got into place, once you got in a car where you actually had to physically put a key in, turn it, or get in and hit the push to start button, you'd be like, nah, I want to go back to the other way. But outside of that, I mean, the cabin design, I mentioned it's not really like that contrasty of a cabin. You've got a little bit of accents here. You've got some gray over here versus the black. And the seats are technically like a two-tone seat. There's a little bit of gray, but it's like way on the back. The bolster parts are still black, or this like galaxy black color. So it's really hard for me to call this a two-tone interior, but technically speaking, there are some contrast points. But I like interior that has a little bit more interest to it, especially on these higher end vehicles. If you're gonna be paying $57,000 for a car, I'd like the interior to look a little bit cleaner and a little bit nicer and more premium. Overall, the driving experience is great. If you're gonna get an ID.4 and you can afford it, get the dual motor version. It's just so much more fun. Overall, just a more enjoyable driving experience. One of my biggest complaints when I drove the ID.4 for the first time was I was like, this car is just not quick. It feels cumbersome, it feels slow. This one does not, so I'm definitely a big fan. And I love what Volkswagen does. I love the way they do these kind of curvatures on the armrests and all this kind of stuff, and the way they use touch capacitive buttons. I'm really a big fan of it. There's just little things here and there. If they change these little things here and there, I think this would be one of the best EVs on the market. But $57,000 is not cheap. Again, it's one of those things that not everybody can afford something this expensive, but one of the nice things they did is they introduced a base level trim for $40,000, just a little bit less range, things like that, which you'd come to expect. But there is an easier entry point if you do want to pick up an ID.4. So thanks so much for watching, guys. Drop a like on the video if you loved it. Tell me in the comments down below, what do you think about the 2023 Volkswagen ID.4 Pro S all-wheel drive? It's a mouthful, but it's awesome. What do you think of the pure gray color? I'm a big fan. Let's talk about it down in the comments. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button to be one of the first to see every single new video the second I hit publish. We'll see you in the next one.